You're good.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Engineering Inspiration Award. So we have two main parts of the presentation. The first part, we're just going to be giving some more information about our team and how we organize our team, give you a little background about who we are. And then the second part is more specific to the Engineering Inspiration Award and some tips, as well as what we think we did to earn this award last season. Start off, my name is Megan Volkening. I was the founder of Graffiti and the team captain from 2020 to 2022. I've been in first for 6 years. I did FLL, FTC, FRC. And then in 2021, I was a first Dean's List winner and the Woody Flowers Memorial Grant recipient. And I went to Worlds 4 times, and I'm going to be a freshman in mechanical engineering at UW-Madison.
My name is Ian Hughes. This coming year, I will be the captain of Graffiti. I did FL for 2 seasons, FTC for 2 seasons, and 1 season of FRC. I was a Dean's List semifinalist this past year, and I qualified for 3 times.
So like I said, we're just going to start with a brief introduction about our team. So we're Graffiti. We were a rookie team last season in 2022. We're from Greendale, Wisconsin, so about 30 minutes from here. And we have about 20 students on our team. We had a little bit less last season and a few more this season. We won the Rookie All-Star Award at the 2022 Milwaukee Regional, and then we went on to win the Engineering Inspiration Award at the Seven Rivers Regional. And then to end off our season, we won the Rookie All-Star Award at the World Championships for the Hopper Division.
So our mission statement. So our team name, Graffiti, is actually an acronym for our mission statement. So Graffiti stands for Greendale Robotics, advocating for first and inspiring tomorrow's innovators. And that was one of the big things we focused on when picking our team name, because being able to incorporate a mission statement into your team name is really handy for a lot of reasons, and it really just demonstrates that the program is a lot more than just the robot, because when you say robotics, you think robot, not necessarily spreading STEM and first and doing advocacy and outreach in general. So yeah.
Another big part of how we were successful last season is we made sure to set goals at the beginning of the season, and we made SMART goals for our overall team, which we all helped brainstorm together, and then each sub-team made their own goals, so programming, mechanical, and business. And these really helped us see if we were making progress in the season, not just towards like those awards or towards scoring a robot with the most points, but if we were making progress on the areas that we felt were important to our team. So if you guys don't know, SMART goals are a specific type of goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And we really use these, and they very much helped us make good goals that were achievable, but also very helpful. So we just have 2 examples of goals that aren't necessarily award or robot-based, but they're kind of overall team-based and helped us decide what we wanted to do in this season. So we had one goal, which was to learn more about STEM careers. To achieve this goal, we will have 6 guest speakers talk to us on Zoom about their jobs and or share their technical expertise by February 1st. So that was a huge part of our team. We made sure to try our best to bring in outside people and gain more experience and exposure to STEM. And then also to gain coaches and mentors in all sub-team areas through the first mentor network, community outreach, or parent connections. And our goal was to have 6 consistent mentors and 6 mentors that helped us out occasionally by January 15th. So as you see, we not only focus on directly awards or directly robot, but also just on our overall team function and sustainability, which greatly helped us.
So time management was another really big part of us being able to do what we did this past season. So we made a Gantt chart for every different sub-team, and for those of you guys who don't know what a Gantt chart is, it's basically each sub-team has their own section in it. So you can see mechanical, electrical, programming, and you divide your goals into more specific goals based, like on the left side there, as it goes, it continues right, it gets more specific. And then you take the meetings that you think you're going to have in an entire season, and you basically space out what time you're going to dedicate to which goals. And using that, we're able to really make sure that there was always someone doing a productive task during every single meeting we had. And then on top of this, we also had the sub-team leads make weekly calendars, which basically were just even more specific things, sometimes on an individual basis, on what an individual would do at every practice or sim.
And then another huge part of our season was our fundraising, which especially as a rookie team, we didn't really have a lot of funds to get started. We were looking for about $40,000, which seemed like a lot of money. So we did a bunch of different things to raise money. One thing that we tried, which I would say was not super successful, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing, but one thing we did was we researched a bunch of different companies in our area, specifically like tech-focused companies, and we just tried cold calling them, introducing them to our team and asking them for a donation. Which wasn't the most successful strategy that we tried, but it was one that we did try. Another one that was a lot more successful was at the beginning of our seasons, we sent out a survey to all of the parents of students on our team, asking them where they work and also if they knew anyone at certain companies. And we had a list of like 20 different tech companies or companies that we knew sponsor a lot of like youth groups in the area. And if like they had a connection to that, we asked them to reach out to them, and we got a lot of money through like, oh, one parent knows someone who works for this company and they would give us money. So that was super successful. We also walked around to local businesses in our town, and we just like told them, hey, we're on the robotics team, a little bit of information, and asked them for a small donation. And we didn't get a ton of money from that, but it was pretty successful. We got like a good return rate on companies who would give us $50 to like $100. And then we also applied to a bunch of grants, specifically the DPI grant, which gave us $5,000, as well as a couple other grants. And then we did get some government funding from a COVID relief bill, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but we allocated to our school board, and we received $15,000 from that.
So branding was another big thing that we were kind of thinking of when we made our team name originally. So not only is our team name our mission statement in an acronym, we had, so it's graffiti obviously, and we had a student make our mascot in the top right, his name is Squirt, and then we have our logo down there, and basically graffiti, so yeah, a mission statement and a brand in one. And our team is really recognizable because we have a lot of bright neon green, so if we're walking around or doing something in our community, people will be able to notice us and be like, oh, that's the high school robotics team, what do you know? And making a robot recognizable too, we had neon greens, spray paint and stuff on our robot this past year, and basically just making our name recognizable, making us recognizable so that we're able to, when someone sees us, they know who we are.
And the last part of kind of our organization is just our business plan. We worked really hard to develop our business plan, especially as a rookie team, and we ended up kind of splitting up into two different parts, which made the most sense for our team at least. So we had half of our business plan was focused on our internal team management, and half was focused on our future sustainability. So within the team management, we created a skills plan of skills that team members wanted to learn in all sections, mechanical, programming, and business, which I don't think we have more information on the presentation, but it was basically like a checklist of all the different skills you could learn on mechanical, and each person had a column and we check off when they learned a different skill. So this helped us make sure that not only were we ending up with a good robot, but our team members were also gaining technical skills individually. We made our SMART goals, we had our Gantt chart, and we made sure we had good team communication. And that was all for like our day-to-day team management. Our future sustainability, we did SWOT analysis, looking at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as a full team and in our individual sub-teams as well. We did a ton of recruiting, especially as a new team. We did not have enough students in the beginning to like do an FRC team, so we hosted info nights, sent out stuff in the weekly newsletters at our school, hung up posters and stuff like that. And then another part that we really focused on was our community engagement. So we helped, we had articles go out to our community so they heard about robotics. We went to the businesses, like I said. We helped mentor our middle school FLL teams, and we started 6 FLL sport teams at our elementary schools. So just building our program up from the bottom, and hopefully one day those kids will come and join us at the high school. And then lastly was our financials. Like I already talked about, we did a ton of fundraising.
So now, the first half of this presentation has kind of been generally like the structure of our team and what we did last year, but now we'll get a little bit more specific into our examples of outreach, advocacy, that kind of stuff.
So the award that we're talking about today is the Engineering Inspiration Award, which is called in the category of a Team Attribute Award, and there are multiple different categories of first awards. The first one is the Machine Creativity and Innovation Award, and like it sounds like those are focused more on your robot planning and design. And we, originally we were going for the Rookie All-Star Award, but it's in the same category as the Engineering Inspiration Award. So we wanted to make sure that we hit a lot of criteria for those robot awards, but we weren't necessarily focused on them. And then there's also the submitted awards, which is First Impact or Chairman's, Dean's List, Woody Flowers. And then there's Robot Performance Awards, which are just specifically focused on how well your robot does. But what we focused on was the Team Attributes Awards, which recognizes the success of teams in developing strong partnerships with their communities, recruiting members, fundraising, and outreach efforts to spread the mission outwards. And those include all of the awards on the side. So like I said, the Rookie All-Star Award, as well as Engineering Inspiration, have very similar criteria.
So what is the Engineering Inspiration Award? So specifically, first description for it is celebrates outstanding success in advancing respect and appreciation for engineering teams, school, organization, and community. So some of the more specific guidelines for this are like the inventiveness of the outreach and advocacy event, things that the team may do. So we really try to focus on coming up with creative outreach events. So we did a lot of demos and like going out into our community, actually showing, handing out pamphlets, that kind of stuff at different demos. We went to a Bucks game where we were like broadcasted on the like another word. Jumbotron. There we go. Jumbotron there. So really just going out into our community and reaching those people specifically in more creative natures, and then also the effectiveness of the team's community outreach. So one of the things we had in our pit is a graph that kind of shows the increase of first participants in Greendale over the past couple of years, because like FLL teams and then FTC teams and then an FRC team last year, and that kind of showed the increase in first participation throughout our community, and then I think that it's education among the team, school, and community. So that's obviously doing outreach and advocacy related to STEM, related to FIRST, related to those kinds of things, and then efforts are ongoing and not strictly concentrated on the building competition season. So that's making sure that we did outreach events year-round and not just during the months of like January through March, but we did summer ones, we did fall ones, we did ones the entire year.
So Ian already talked about it a little bit, but we wanted to share a little bit more specifically on what we did to go towards the Engineering Inspiration and Rookie All-Star Awards. So in the summer and fall, we had a lot of off-season meetings and we brainstormed like really long lists of a ton of different possible outreach activities we could do. And a lot of them we ended up doing, some of them we never even like went any further than just putting them on our brainstorm board. But this really helped us just get a variety of ideas, see what might be interesting or practical or most impactful on our community. And then once we had that, we started actually doing our events, spreading STEM in the community, spreading FIRST in the community. We did camps, demos, and a ton of other events. And then we also helped start a lot of FIRST teams. We started 6 FLL Explore teams with a summer camp, and we helped kind of restart the FLL teams from COVID because they had like happened again. So we mentored them and made sure that they were still running. And then we advocated, which we have more information on as well, but we advocated at the local, state, and national level for more funding for robotics teams as well as STEM education, which we think was really impactful. We learned a ton from it. We think it helped a lot of other teams, and as well as it definitely did help us win this award. And then we worked together really well as a team, and we all stepped up. All of our team members, whether they were in programming, electrical, mechanical, or business, were at least involved in our outreach events. They may not have been the ones planning the events, but all of them attended demos. We had CAD kids being our counselors at our camps. Like, they all helped us with our outreach. And that really, even with a small team, we had maybe 10 kids regularly at our meetings. We did like 1,000 something hours of outreach, and that was only possible because of like our teamwork and our positive environment and people like wanting to be there and wanting to help us.
So documentation. We have a very big engineering notebook. So business engineering notebook is not required for FRC, but it allows for all activities and processes to be documented. It's easier to qualify and quantify and measure aspects of your season. So that's different like charts, graphs, everything like that, like a visual to really give the judges, or well, to show the judges so that they can kind of see like on a graph the increase in STEM participants or first participants in your community, the people that you met with, the fundraising you did, the different outreach events you did, everything like that. So yeah, stats, graphs, videos, photos, detailed write-ups, everything like that. We have one big team drive on Google Drive where we have everything organized by different sub-teams, different events we've posted, different just categories of our team, so business, just everything like that. And then at the end of the season, more towards our competition season, we had the business team compiled everything into a bunch of different pages and everything, and then we got all those printed out and we put it together in our business and engineering book.
So we talked about it a little bit before. We wanted to give a little bit more detail on what our team did for outreach. So we mentored FLL teams. We mentored 3 different FLL teams. And then we created a quiet room at the Milwaukee competition. We volunteered at first events like the Mukwonago FLL scrimmage and the Hilltoppers competition and the Hilltoppers FLL competition. We hosted the summer camp, which you can see here. So we had 6 different teams who did their entire FLL Explore season in just that week. And then our team members in the gray were all of the camp counselors. And that was pretty much completely student led and student coached. And then we did a demo at the Milwaukee Bucks game. We had like 6 different hands-on stations for kids to do, and we also advertised first on the Jumbotron. We hosted a Women in STEM webinar, and we had speakers from NASA, SpaceX, Qualcomm, and the National Institute of Science and Technology, and we had people from like 10 different countries around the world come and listen to our webinar. We hosted a virtual FLL tournament 2 years ago. We did robotics read-alouds to like 1,000 something students across Wisconsin, and then this is just a picture of us doing like, we did local demos. That one was just out of the mall near our house to get kids interested in STEM and see our robots in action. Overall, we did a ton of outreach, but we didn't just do like any outreach. We really looked at how many people we could reach with each outreach event. So was it going to reach a lot of people, or was it not going to reach a lot of people? And then what was the impact we were going to have on those people? So like our camp was only 36 kids, but they obviously were a lot more impacted than like just seeing our robot at a demo. So we made sure that either we were reaching a ton of people, or you're going to have a big impact on the people that we were reaching to make sure that it was like worth our time to do that event.
So for advocacy, this is more specific of local advocacy. So we mentioned earlier that we applied for a lot of local and state grants, but then also we got funding from government relief programs due to COVID. So ESSER funding is funding that the government gave different amounts to every state around the U.S. But Wisconsin got X amount, and that all trickled down into different school systems and everything. So ESSER funding, we found out that we were able to, that we could receive it if our school board agreed to give it to us. So we went to multiple different school board meetings and presented just kind of what our team was, what we were doing. We were a first-year team, a rookie team that was really in need of funding if they could give it to us. And originally, obviously, they started out by saying, I don't think we would be able to give you any money. But after going to multiple of those school board meetings and presenting, we ended up receiving $15,000 in funding. And that was our local advocacy.
Then at the state level, we were an FTC team for 1 year before we started FRC. So in 2020, which was our rookie FTC season, we hosted the Wisconsin Advocacy Day along with Beast Robotics. And 2 of our team members also presented at the event. So basically at that event, we trained FTC and FRC teams in Wisconsin how to advocate to their state legislators. And then some of those teams went and advocated to their own legislators to help increase funding for robotics. And then we also hosted a webinar for teams on how to apply for the DPI grant and making sure that robotics teams knew about that. And the year after we hosted that webinar, there was actually so many teams that applied for the grant that you didn't receive your full $5,000. So we maxed out the grant once again. So now we are looking to host another Wisconsin Advocacy Conference this winter in January or February. And we're looking to advocate to the state legislators to increase the DPI robotics grant because it is completely being used up, and there are teams that are wanting more funding, and there's more teams that they can give money to. So if any of your teams, or if you guys know any teams that you think would be interested in joining us in hosting this Wisconsin Advocacy Conference, we are definitely looking for teams to join us, and we're looking to get started planning it in the next couple months. When we hosted it, it was originally like 4 other FRC teams. With COVID, it ended up only being 2 by the time we actually got to host the event. But we met every month or every like 2 weeks, did like an hour Zoom meeting and planned out what we need to. So it's not a huge time commitment or anything, but we would love to get multiple teams involved so it's like more sustainable in the future. So if anyone's interested, you can definitely let me know.
So National Advocacy, we had a couple team members attend the National Advocacy Conference for a couple years. So we helped plan and advise the 2022 NAC Advisory Committee, or we were on the NAC Advisory Committee. We advocated for an increase in education funding for the Every Student Succeeds Act, Title IV Part A. And we've had over dozens of meetings with different reps and senators. And we even had Representative Stubbs at our lab. The picture's not up there, but that's not important. Anyway, and yeah, so we actually ended up. So there was a couple meetings beforehand with kind of getting everything set up. That was over COVID because we had to do 1 year of it online. So there was a couple meetings of kind of learning what to do and setting everything up, and then you met with your representatives and senators over a Zoom meeting. But this past summer, we actually got to go to DC and meet in person with either the representatives / senators or their staffers if they weren't around, and sit down with them in their offices and talk to them directly about well, it was mostly Every Student Succeeds Act and Part A, but there's also a couple other ones that we're hoping to convince them to pass, and it was really, really cool.
So next we have a couple tips for EI. So the first one is that you can never do too much outreach, but we want you to keep in mind that we think you should make sure your team's enjoying what you're doing and you're not just doing that outreach to like win the awards. Because we wanted to make sure we did outreach events that we were having fun with, that we thought were impactful. So make sure you're not just doing the outreach to win the awards. Make sure it's actually something you enjoy and you think is being beneficial to other people. And then we have focus on sustainable outreach efforts. So we're hoping to like get teams started that are going to be sustainable in the future, or things that are going to be super easy to like continue doing year after year. Like we create STEM kits, and while we have to like assemble the STEM kits each year, we already have the booklets and we already have the instructions to make them. So it's easy to do it again and again, and maybe replicate on a bigger scale each year because we already have all the resources to do it. And then we would make sure your team is practicing talking to the judges, because one thing is like, you may have done all this amazing outreach, but if you can't like tell the judges about what you did or like clearly communicate how you did it, it's not going to be as beneficial when it comes to winning the awards. So we practice talking to our judges at many of our meetings, and we have example questions on the next slide. And then also the robot is a really small part of EI, so it doesn't really matter how good your robot is. If anything, it matters somewhat like your process for your robot and how you can explain that and like your goals and stuff, but not really how your robot turns out. Like we were a rookie team, we had a decent robot, but it definitely wasn't like amazing. It wasn't super complex or anything like that. And then just have fun and make sure what you're doing is fun and that you're enjoying it.
So preparation for judges, you guys can look at these questions. This is just a bunch of example questions for different questions you practice talking to your teammates about. If you want to write any of them down. And really just one of the main things is for when judges come to your pits and ask you questions is just to practice a lot. We had several meetings where we set aside an hour, or not necessarily the entire team, but just individuals when they had free time leading up to a competition, just practicing questions, just any questions, because you don't want necessarily one person just only knowing like a couple of things. You want, if there's one thing that someone needs to know, you should have like at least 2 people that know it. So if somebody has a brain fart when the judges are talking to you, you can have someone else help that person out if they are just like, oh, this, oh wait, I completely forgot. Because that happens because you're talking to judges, you're under pressure, and yeah.
Yeah, I have one more thing to add for that. We don't have it on the slide, but one thing we did was we had a Google Doc with like all of these questions on them, as well as many, many others. and then we would assign students to like write down what they thought was a good answer to that question, so we could kind of get like a draft of an answer, and then we'd review them at the next meeting and kind of talk through, like our whole team would be like, do we think that's a good answer, what should we add, what should we take out, and obviously we did not memorize the answers word for word, but it helped us make sure that all of our team members could, like, if someone on the programming team, they were all by the end of the season able to answer questions on mechanical, business, electrical, because they could just look at this document and see, oh, if someone asked us about the outreach, what should we tell them? And then we also had our 5 most important things. So our team picked 5 things that if judges come to our pit, what do we want to make sure we include? So even if we can just find a way to somehow connect it to a question they ask, these are the 5 most important things that they should take away, like any judge coming to our pit should take away from our team. And they were, I think, on our design process, advocacy, outreach, can't remember exactly all of them, but they were like a variety of different things between like mechanical, business, like software programming.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, like our business plan. And just having like a way, like having answers written down to these questions really help people who don't feel as comfortable get comfortable, because they can like look over them on their own and they don't have to like feel the pressure necessarily of answering in front of everyone before they can like just take some time to read over it on their free time.
And just adding on to that, like you said, doing practice in their free time, so you didn't need another person to ask you the question directly, and you could just kind of look at that doc and be like, oh, I don't know, I should probably practice up a little bit on my programming answers, so I can kind of look at that, and so I have a basic understanding of how to answer those.
Yeah, and we like assigned people to each question to make sure we had 2 people who were very confident in answering every question, and then it was kind of like your job to look over some others so you had a general idea in case someone was sick or gone, but at least 2 people were confident in an answer to like 50 different questions. Okay, so we had one example, so we kind of wanted to show you guys what we would answer as. So one question we picked was when they asked, how does your team recruit new members and mentors? So a sample answer would be, at the beginning of the year, we reach out to the incoming freshmen that were on FOL teams. We invite them to come and check out one of our meetings. We also put up flyers and host an info night at the beginning of each school year at our high school. To gain mentors, we sent out a survey to parents of all our team members. This survey includes if they have any connections at technical companies or the potential mentors. We also used the first mentor network and included a mentor request in the article about our team in the Window magazine. So this would be something that would be in that Google Doc. So it would just be the question and then a typed up answer. And we would not memorize this word for word, but it just kind of gives like the general ideas on what we would include.
Okay, so for another example, has your team done any community outreach? So yeah, this is another example of what a general idea of what we would say. So yes, of course, we've done a ton of community outreach in total over the past 6 seasons. We've reached almost 50,000 people and spent 1,400 hours on outreach. Some of our favorite outreach events were hosting a robotics summer camp that started 6 FLL sport teams, mentoring FLL teams, hosting a Women Inside webinar, creating bilingual STEM quiz, doing robotics real labs, and many more. Through all of the events, we've been able to not only increase awareness of FIRST in our small town, but also in the greater Milwaukee area and even internationally. We have seen success as the number of people in FIRST programs in our community has grown exponentially. So yeah, like I said, that's just another general idea of what one of our answers would be. So you just have the question in the doc and then the answer, and someone could look at that and like Megan said, we would have like 2 people that really know the answer to the question. But then if someone's like, oh, I should practice business or outreach a little bit more, they can kind of get a general idea and kind of like, they kind of know like the numbers and that kind of stuff, so they can speak to the judges confidently. If someone, like she said, is sick or something like that, or like if you're at a match and there's a couple people in your pit, then you can reply to those questions.
Yeah, we also made a portfolio, which I think are sitting on the tables in the back, but it was like a 15-page summary on like our team from business, mechanical, electrical, and programming, and we had all of our students that were on our pit team read through those portfolios, and at least our goal was for them to be competent in answering questions on any of those materials if they were going to be in the pits, that they could answer the general information about all of the areas. And obviously some people are even a lot more specifics, but like if someone asked them, oh, what are some outreach events you know you do, every person who's standing in that pit would be comfortable answering that question. Okay, we have a little bit of time for questions. If anyone has any questions, we can definitely answer them. Yeah.
How did you start that summer camp?
Well, one thing that we saw in our town was that the FLL teams died out after COVID. So there, at that point, wasn't any teams below the high school team that we were starting. And we wanted to be able to start a bunch of first teams. And the FLL Explore, we had done one online team the year before, just one team. And it wasn't super hard, it's only at 12 hours of meeting time. So we thought like we could fit that into a summer camp. And a summer camp was a great option because a lot of our team members had time in the summer to do outreach, so we were able to get like a big thing done in the summer. And we started by just coming up with the idea that we wanted to host that, and then we advertised it at a local demo we did, as well as I think we got it sent out to all the students in summer school, I think. Yeah, so that was sent out to like any student enrolled in summer school was notified, oh hey, there's like, it wasn't technically summer school, but another camp that your kid could do. And then we also reached out, like we put it out on Facebook and our social media, and I think a lot of people also shared it on social media. So we were able to totally fill our camp.
There was a wait list for it.
Yeah, there was a wait list for our camp, so it was not too bad to fill it. And then we kind of looked through, like FLL Explore gives you an example of everything you need to do. Like they'll have a book and it says meeting 1, this is what you do, meeting 2, this is what you do. We did not follow that like exactly, but that really helped us like make the curriculum for it and decide like what we wanted to do each day. That was actually really fun. Yeah.
So how do you decide what goals your team has beyond, since a lot of, even just like do outreach, right? A lot of that is focused, in some aspect there's an award or whatnot tied behind that. So how do you come up with goals like, oh, we want to learn about X amount of STEM careers or this and that?
I would say some of our goals were focused on sustainability, especially as a rookie team. So those aren't necessarily, I mean, they definitely helped us win the summer, but they were more like, we want to make sure this team doesn't fall apart. Yeah. And then we just kind of had our, like, what we talked about, like, what do we want to get out of the thing? And a lot of us know we want to go into a STEM career, but we don't necessarily know what kind. So something that we all just wanted to learn was about different careers. It wasn't, that one definitely wasn't like award specific. It's just kind of like, if our team members have an interest in like doing something that's like STEM related, we try to find a way for like that to happen on our robotics team. And we thought that would just be very beneficial for our team members, like for themselves personally.
One of the things we did is, so we kind of sent out a survey to all of our team members, and all of our team members kind of submitted what careers or interests that they might be interested in, and then we had a Zoom meeting where we invited a bunch of people from those different professions to that Zoom meeting, and they kind of talked about like their day-to-day life and their engineering or programming specific profession or whatever profession it was that people were interested in. And we were on a Zoom meeting with them. They kind of explained what their day-to-day life was and their job, and that kind of, it was not related to any award at all, but it was just something that like our teammates wanted to do, and they wanted to learn more about those careers, so we did that.
Yeah, like we just really want to make sure that like all of our team members are getting the experience out that they want, whether or not it's related to our award. Like we even had one team member who does theater and engineering, and we were able to get a theater engineering professor to talk just with our team. They teach the theater engineering program at Purdue, and they came and talked to our team on Zoom, but still. So we just want to make sure that like all the team members are getting the experience that they want out of it, even if it's not necessarily like related to our.
Yeah, these kids really do a great job. You guys, from a Zoom standpoint, leverage that. I mean, yeah. These webinars are, you have to organize them and get them set up, but they're not pulling 500 people together, right? And you guys have done a ton of webinars, the Women in STEM and the career and outreach, and the connect portion of it is, you know, a fantastic way to really connect with a lot of people, with the kids as well as the community and the outreach. And you guys have done it's on you guys because I'm the new head coach, but you guys did a great job, and it's a great way of connecting like that. Like that, to your point, Megan, that whole that was such a cool connect that you guys came up with, and we connected with that. Purdue, yeah. It was Purdue, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Purdue University with the theater and engineering combination. What a cool thing, right? Getting other kids that normally may not relate to robots and stuff.
Yeah, I would say just like, not necessarily a really tough question, but like another tip is like, don't be afraid to reach out to people to try to get them to talk to you. Because we even like sent out emails to a bunch of like women in STEM in like really high positions, and we didn't really think like any of them were necessarily going to respond to us. But we ended up getting like the senior vice president of engineering at Qualcomm spoke with us and like presented at our presentation, and like a bunch of other people responded. We had like professors from like Stanford responded. They weren't available, but like said that we could definitely reach out to them for another event. So it's like, don't be afraid to reach out to people. You're definitely not gonna get all responses. Like we probably emailed like 30, 40 people, but we got like 6 or 7 like people responding to us wanting to do it. So don't be afraid to like reach out for yourself out there.
Did you have it set up as like a single day event where you had slots of all these different
For
people?
our webinar?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just did, I think it was just an afternoon, and for that webinar we had 4 different speakers, so it was just like speaker 1, like we were like the introducers, so we would like introduce them, speaker 1 went, we introduced speaker 2, so it's kind of like people can just watch all of them like in a row. Same with our career days, we've done like the career days where we got speakers, those we just so far have done only internally with our team. We haven't yet like hosted like a webinar with other teams for our career days, but we also just schedule those like back-to-back speakers, so you can hear a bunch of different people at once. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, and then like I said, we are looking for teams to join us with work in Wisconsin advocacy to plan a conference in January or February. So if anyone's interested, you guys can contact me, and then we'll get connected, all of us connected.
I have a question on that. Why January or February?
Yeah, so.
It seems very.
Horrible time for FRC,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so, yeah. In summer, they're out of session a lot, so we don't wanna do it when they're out of session, because then you won't actually be able to meet with them. And then in the fall, it's election year, so they're not interested in meeting with you, and they're about to get, they're focused on their election campaigns, not really on STEM funding. And then from January and December and from November, December, and early January, it's like when they switch. So like a lot of your people are gonna be switching out of office, so they don't really, they're not gonna be able to make legislation in the upcoming year. So while it is during competition season, for the legislative calendar, it's like the time that makes sense, but it is unfortunate.
Okay, fair. I just wanted to know if I was just like, yeah, we meet in this time of year, so we're gonna do this in
No,
this time of
it's-
year. Okay, gotcha.
It's with the legislative calendar, it's kind of the time, because they are just starting their term thinking about like what they, especially a lot of like in state legislature, there's like a decent amount of turnover, so they're just starting about like what things do I want to try to push, so we think this is the best time to do it. I mean, obviously if teams like on the committee that are gonna do it decide a different time, that would be fine, but unfortunately, that's kind of the best time. Or like March or April would be fine, but then teams are like traveling everywhere, so it's even worse. So, but we did a ton of the planning, like it was pretty much all planned out before kickoff. It's just the day.
Yeah, just the actual thing is doing.
We had it all planned out, we had all of our speakers, the agenda, all of our publicizing materials like before kickoff, and then it's just like one weekend during the season would be the actual event, but most of the planning would all be before season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome job. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you guys coming in, right? Because 9:30, we're doing a lot of these because we know a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, while we do outreach, you guys have won the award.